Hello there, and welcome to Book Blender. On this show, we will be mixing up a story live and completely impromptu, and we're going to be looking for some suggestions and fun as well. We're going to all brainstorm together. You never quite know what's going to blend up because, like I said, it's going to be completely random. So you never know what the blender might present. So without further ado, let's go ahead and start blending. Let's pick a character, shall we? Hold on here. Sorry, I got my blender going. All right, so let's go blending time. Sorry about that. All right. Blend, blend, blend. Where does it go? When does it stop? Nobody knows. All right. Let's see what we got. Katniss Everdeen from the Hunger Games. All right, so not bad. We have a tough character who's good with a bow and arrow. Not particularly great at navigating politics, perhaps. Very spoken, to the point, blunt, finds it difficult to connect with other people. All right. So that being said, let us figure out where the setting is. So where are we, where is this story taking place? Because that obviously will have a big impact on the type of story it is. So we've got Katniss. Now let's look at the setting. What do we got? Blend, blend, blend. And the setting is Sherwood Forest. Okay. Well, it's not a dramatic change from the Hunger Games, but we have this forest area, and you have a character, a hunter type character. Like I said, doesn't get along well with other people, is a little bit blunt, a little bit to the point. All right, so now we get to choose. So this is not going to be chosen for us. We have some options here of icons. So, what are we leaning towards here, icon-wise? Which one of these catches our fancy? We've got looks like a clownfish in a reef, and we've got a bicyclist, and we have shapes, and we have somebody that looks a little bit like an angel shape or something like that. So what are we leaning towards? Which one do we want to go with? This is where we have a chance to affect the story. We've got a little bit of ability here. What catches your eye? The shapes, the fish, the bike. Yeah, we're all over the place. Hello. All right. So far we have shapes, fish, bike. Somebody, the last person, you get to pick. It's up to you. What are we doing? Shapes, bike, fish, angel. I am gonna say, I'm tempted to go with the fish. And that's just because the fish seems the most abstract. So the thing about clownfish in a coral reef is they live in an anemone, right? And an anemone is poisonous, but the clownfish has a mucus, and so they can live in a symbiotic relationship with the anemone. They can eat some of the particles and different animal life that interacts with the anemone, but the anemone itself doesn't bother them. So I like that because that gives me something a little bit more to work with. So what we have is a character who's living out in the woods, and they have some sort of symbiotic relationship with something that for everybody else doesn't work out very well. It's like not necessarily poisonous, but something like that. So think that through, kind of brainstorm that. Clownfish living with an enemy sounds like marriage. Wow. Bitter out there. I would say I don't necessarily know if I'd want it to be an animal. What if it was like a plant? I mean, we could go that way. What if this person had an immunity to a certain type of plant that had a negative effect on everybody else? It was even almost like toxic or something, but they didn't, and so they lived out there, and it kind of protected them. And maybe there's some sort of guardian of the forest or something like that. All right, so that's not a bad start. We got something going on here. But what we need to know, yeah, like poison ivy, sort of, but I'm thinking maybe more severe than that. I'm thinking that perhaps it has some sort of effect on you, like maybe it causes you to like really hallucinate, or it could even kill you or something like that. Just make you get really slow, something, you know. Slow you, they zap your energy, you know. What does the protagonist want? The little girl that was immune from spores that turn you into zombies. Yeah, maybe something like that, right? This is somebody that has an immunity of something and it has a horrific effect on everybody else. So these are the sort of questions that are always good when you're talking about a story. What do they want? Usually people want either something in love, or they want wealth or power, or they want meaning. Um, I'm feeling like this might be a meaning story. You have somebody out there in the middle, and maybe they're trying to find the answer to some question. Why are they badly suited? Well, Katniss's shortcomings, like I said, is that she's not very good at social situations. She tends to kind of go off the cuff and is very blunt. So we have a character that's very outspoken. So this might have to be a situation where they may have to be good at that sort of diplomacy. I'm not sure what that means, but I'll think about that. And why we like them, I think to some extent the brutal honesty is something that will be appealing. All right, so that being said, it's time to pick the villain. This is where things are really going to get real because the villain obviously has a huge impact on the story, and I this could go multiple ways. So let's find out who the villain is. We have a forest, we have Katniss, and now we have the villain. Let's get going here. And the villain is what happened here? And the villain is Cruella de Vil. All right. Well, this actually works out pretty well for a nature story, right? Cruella de Vil from 101 Dalmatians wants to kidnap dogs in order to turn them into a coat, right? So you have somebody that's just very flippant about nature. You know, very not certainly not an animal lover, an animal abuser. So it would make sense in a story. We have this whole nature theme going on. Somebody that's kind of living at one with nature, although it's hostile to most people. It's not hostile to the person that's living out there. And the villain is somebody who wants to exploit. So my guess is the villain wants to exploit something that this plant is protecting. Because perhaps Katniss is not the only thing that has this sort of symbiotic relationship. Maybe there is some sort of animal out there that has some sort of characteristic that the Cruella de Vil character wants to exploit. You know, maybe the animal has a healing property, a fur plant. Well, yeah, you could go the Lorax route, right? Maybe it is the plant itself. And she speaks for the trees, you know. It could be something like that. Um, I don't know though. I feel like it's harder to get sympathy for a plant than it is for animals. So I would try to stick with the animal motif. And she and these animals, you know, these cute animals live in a forest. To herd a dog and we call John Wick. Exactly, exactly. Um, so she lives out there in the bushes in this place, and there are cute animals that live out with her, but there's a villain who wants them for nefarious purposes. All right. But obviously, it wouldn't be I don't know about a coat. That's not quite enough. It's like food source isn't right either, because that's more necessary, right? It needs to be something flippant. So maybe it's some way to create some sort of, yeah, I don't know. It needs to be something flippant, because I like that. Yeah, it could be medical, but then you get into the moral quandary. But maybe we do want to make it more interesting, right? And that Katniss is actually keeping what is a potential cure for humanity away from humanity. And sure, the animals might go extinct, but on the other hand, it might cure, cancer or something. That'd be kind of an interesting moral question, right? Do you think an animal species should go extinct if it could cure cancer? Questions. All right. What does the villain want? We've already talked about that. The villain wants to exploit something in nature, something that this Katniss character is defending. What makes them a good obstacle? Now, that's a good question, right? Because Cruella de Vil is not that threatening exactly. I mean, she's a bad driver. She's kind of mean-spirited, but it's not like she is particularly capable exactly. She's just very driven. She's a cartoon. She could fall off a cliff without getting hurt. Well, okay, let's take something with that. Let's go with that. Let's say that she actually does have some sort of superhuman ability. This character has a superhuman ability. Maybe that is what they want from these animals. If you, I don't know, milk them or something, or I don't know, figure it out. Maybe their hair or something. You can prevent injury or something like that, right? And so you can act really, and imagine it's like really exploited. It's not even like people use it for like practical stuff. It's like, oh, well, I've always wanted to jump off of a 80-foot building without getting hurt or something. And somehow these animals allow you to do that. It almost gives you like this superhuman ability to defend yourself. And so this person has been under the influence of this animal product, so now they are basically indestructible. So that would be kind of cool. And what Katniss would then need to learn in order to defeat that villain would be what is their weakness. That does allow there to be more of an equal advantage to protect. Yeah, right. Because if Katniss has this defensive stuff, these defensive plants. So she can hide in the plants, and the plants are something that negatively affect the character. But if she goes out beyond the plants, well, there's these people that are exploiting these animals and making themselves into super strong. It almost sounds like it starts to get a little post-apocalyptic, right? Maybe there aren't as many people left, or this is an isolated place, and people have genetically modified themselves by using these animals to become like these superhumans, and this is kind of somebody that's left of the natural human race hiding out among plants that bother the people. And the only reason why these plants bother the people is because when you genetically modify yourself, it just makes you like highly allergic to them or something. It's like a side effect. So it's like, yeah, you're super strong, but you're highly allergic to maple trees or something. I don't know. That's kind of cool. I like limitations, to magic and things like that, and that's basically what that would be. So that would be interesting. All right, let's look at the weird news story item we're going to throw in here. Quincy the cat plays ping pong, and he can probably whoop your tail too. Ah, see, this ties into to the whole thing. Wow, this is really like tying together. It's cool. So you have these animals, and I like the playing ping pong. So these animals are intelligent enough that they end up cooperating with Katniss to take out this Cruella de Vil character, and I'm thinking like kind of Ewok style, but not quite that silly. But I like it. I like it. So the idea that these animals are out there in this forest. The forest is toxic. You like the silliness. Okay, we can go silly. The forest is toxic because people have modified themselves and now they're highly allergic. See, if we want to go more the Douglas Adams sort of route, the more silly, this would be some sort of satire on, people's desire to modify themselves, pharmaceuticals, whatever it is. And so you would have, these very decadent people on the outside, and you'd have this very naturalistic person on the inside. And you could even have it where this character can, who knows, can communicate with the animals. The animals are becoming highly intelligent because through centuries of, or thousands of years of evolution, they've started to get more intelligent and mean. And you could say too that Katniss isn't the only person. There's like a whole group of people, and this is like the last little remnant of what was natural, and everything on the outside is just this wacky world where everybody, it's like Wall-E, everybody is very exploitative and is just tearing things down and, just having a lot of uh, decadence. So I could like that. Okay, I could see that working. All right, here's the twist. Those we thought were dead are not. Ah, okay. All right. I see where this is going. So, we could have where Katniss and the people, we're going to call them like the natural people might think that they're like the only people left. And it turns out that actually, though, there's a lot more of them. And actually, Cruella de Vil is maybe the minority group on this earth. And there's actually a lot more people that have hid out in different areas over the years. And eventually they all band together and take out the exploitative genetically modified humans. And it's very I don't know, very epic. I like that. All right, let's think that through. But I like the idea too. It's like the ancient legends of the people and everything, and they're like, no, those people are long dead, and then you find out, nope, they were just pretending to be dead, so nobody would mess around with them. And if you have the whole idea of getting back to the silliness, technically, if you have something where the person is vulnerable, well, to maple, it's like, oh, you could just make guns out of like maple syrup, and you're just spraying it at the people to slow them down. Um, oh, thank you. I'm glad you like my thought process. Yeah, I just, just abstracting it out. Any other thoughts out there? Anybody? I just like brainstorming. The reason why we do these shows is because you don't see too much material where you really get to see somebody just brainstorm, on the fly. And it might help you with your own brainstorming. I mean, you can take any of these techniques yourself. Random characters, random news stories, random story prompts, and you just always say yes. I think is the thing. You could say, oh, that's kind of dumb. No, but just always say yes. Say, well, yeah, maybe it is kind of dumb, but maybe we could make it work, and you always go different. Especially when you come up with an idea and you're like, but you have to bring up, or you have the problem up. Yeah, you have to, you start to think about it, and you have to wrestle, and you're like, you have to think about it. But yeah, I'm a story mechanic sort of person, so that's what I like to talk about. But yeah, so what I like about this, the issue I would have with a story like this is like, I don't really want to get too post-apocalyptic because that's too somber. I kind of like the idea that it's beautiful. It's a beautiful place. I'm thinking kind of Avatar-ish, in terms of the place that these Cruella de Vil people want to mess with is really quite nice. And, they are very decadent. So outside, they've kind of wall-eed it. It's really gross and ugly and everything. But what I do like is the idea of, the people have hidden out and they became one with nature, and so nature kind of protected them, right? Meanwhile, the people that were exploitative have to constantly battle nature, and it's like it gets worse and worse and worse to the point where so many basic things bother them. It's kind of the War of the Worlds effect, where you have the protection of the earth being bacteria. I like that. I think that's cool. Especially because you wouldn't have to start out the story where that's the case. So you could start it out where you're in this weird kind of, beautiful, fantastical place, kind of Pandora-ish, right? And you have the Katniss character, who was living on the land and whatever. And then one of the characters from the outside is like goes and tries to kill one of the animals or something, and then she goes after them, and it's like nothing actually hurts them, and then the actual like plants, um you can tell they are having a reaction, and they like die because they're like poisoned by the plants. And you realize, oh wait a second, there's people on the outside and they're bothered by something on the inside. And then this person goes on this big adventure to find out, and what they eventually realize, um is they were told, oh wait, maybe that's the person that was dead. So they were told that nobody lived on the outside, that the earth, the people on the outside of their little beautiful nirvana area, they all had died out. They just lived terribly and they died out. But what's actually has happened is they haven't died out because they just continually find ways of modifying themselves. And I almost like the idea, you could play it the whole thing where you don't even know if they're people at first. They're like kind of monstrous, right? And then you actually find out that these are people. They just have continually, it's like the time machine, story. They've just continually modified themselves, that after all of these centuries, that is what humanity became. Um, and I think that would be a fun twist, right? And then you find out that they're trying to exploit the animals in that area because otherwise they will die out. So you get a little bit of a moral quandary with that. And it turns out that the animals are more intelligent than you gave them credit for, and they help try to solve the problem. So I'm feeling a pretty good story going on here. Definitely things working out. Uh, the name of something like this, I feel like it would be the name of the location. It feels like a location story sort of thing. But it could be like The Beast Within or something, if you wanted to go more pretentious. So thinking of the opening image, so the question I have is about the ending. So the ending could be that the if only the ending could be that this Katniss character and all these natural people end up facing off with the monstrous humans, and they basically defeat them. But that just seems a little bit easy. I don't know. I feel like it needs to have something else. I feel like this ends up being something just make sure the dogs are safe. Yes, the cute dogs. Um, but I feel like this is a story that's a little bit more about making it work out somehow. And I don't know how you solve that, but perhaps you actually reach something that's more like a truce, and then you end up with the idea. It's like, well, maybe they'll eventually find their way back to something that's more like humanity. Um, I don't know. That might be a little bit too clever by half, but I'm just thinking, like, I don't want it to just be some big epic showdown and everything. Cruella's heart grew 2 sizes too big. Yeah, I don't necessarily want that. I don't want to be like, oh, nature, it actually is pretty. Like, that would be stupid. But I feel like maybe you can end up where uh you just have demonized this other because it doesn't seem very human, and to some degree it's like, well, what does that say about the natural people? Are they being a little bit prejudiced, and do they have to kind of grow, and do they have to figure out something? And it can be a little bit of, look, just don't mess with us and we'll mess with you, because it could be that Katniss is given the opportunity to literally like take them out, right? Because if they have this technology, which is the thing that they're allergic to, there could be a way that they could like pollute their water or something with it. And they have to make the decision that that's not what they're going to do. They're not going to do the same thing to them that they wanted to do to their dogs in order for preservation. Yeah, somehow they help each other. Maybe there is something that they can offer them too, and they work together. That could be an even happier ending, where there's some knowledge that these genetically modified people have that can benefit the people. And then we also have the option too of, there are other groups than just these two. We find out that this is just a small piece, and there's actually, multiple tribes going on. You know, you could have that as well. So, and get a little bit bigger with your world building. But I like it. It's a little uh it's funny because I don't generally like post-apocalyptic sort of stuff exactly, but I think what would make this work again is if it's not like super gloomy. It's more about how we you can choose to kind of blend in with nature, or you can resist nature and that battle of that, and then also the what is the what is the cost you're willing to do in order to what is the cost you're willing to do to preserve your culture? What are you willing to do to another culture or being in order to preserve yours? And so it starts out where it's like clearly the protagonists are on the side of right because they're just defending themselves. But then when they have the option to act aggressively to the other side, then the shoe's on the other foot, and they're given that opportunity, and they have to decide whether or not to do it or not. I don't know. What do you think out there? Do you think that it worked out pretty well? Do you like that story? If you don't, feel free to blend your own because that's the whole idea with Book Blender. So good. I'm glad you do. I did. I liked it. So if you enjoy seeing me talk about things, you can always join me tomorrow for Write Aerobics. Write Aerobics at 9 a.m., which are a series of short exercises designed to get your creative juices flowing. And then we invite you to continue working with a writing sprint. It's a nice way to get yourself going in the morning, get some writing done. And then we will also have at noon wacky words, and wacky words are puzzles and games around words. So cryptogram, rebus puzzles, things like that. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us here on AutoCrit Live. If there is anything that you can think of that would make our shows better, or are there any different types of shows you'd like to see, or anything like that, let me know. You can let me know here in the chat, or you can email me at daniel@autocrit.com because we're always looking for more fun shows for the whole community. So thank you so much for joining me, and you have a wonderful evening, everybody.